Welcome to Permission to Thrive. I'm your host, Suzi Lula. As a spiritual therapist for over 20 years, I have the honor and privilege of ushering women and mothers just like you on a journey from simply surviving to powerfully thriving. I also have the honor of raising our son, Will, who is now a young adult, with my longtime partner, Jamie, so I'm right there on the journey with you. Consider this your personal sanctuary, your space to meet your heart, embrace your messy, and come home to your most authentic, extraordinary self. My hope is that you leave resourced and inspired because you are here to shine. Welcome to Permission to Thrive. So welcome everyone to this episode of Permission to Thrive. I am here again with Joye, Madden, who I will introduce you to in a moment. But this episode, we are diving into all things guilt related. Guilt about taking care of ourselves, guilt about not taking care of ourselves, what it is, how to move through it, can we heal it, how to heal it. So all things guilt. And as I said, I'm here with beautiful Joye Madden. Joye has been on before. You are not only an excellent soul psychology coach, you are also a conscious parenting coach. You are an addiction coach, and currently you happen to be a small group leader in our soul psychology certification course. And I say that because you are quite beloved. The small group loves you, and I know that you love them so much and working with them, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about. You are also mom of 3 children, 2 twin teens, and a young adult daughter. So Joye has been through all the age stages. And as I said, you've also been on the pod before. It was actually, for anyone who's interested in going back, it was actually episode 69, and it was called Healing Family Trauma. And we received so many emails around how impactful that episode was, how raw we were, how vulnerable you allowed yourself to be. It was very helpful and healing for many, many individuals. So if you haven't heard that episode, it's a way to perhaps dive into healing your own family trauma, whether in your current family system or the family system that you grew up in. And I'm so happy to have you here, Joye. You're dear to me in so many, many ways.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this conversation. I think it is going to touch many, many, many people. We, especially as women, just carry on our shoulders this thing called guilt that we have received from generations and culture before us. And I know that for you in particular, on your journey, permission to take care of yourself, self-care, taking care of the heart of you, the soul of you, as I call it, guilt, boundaries, setting boundaries, all of that has been such a big part of your journey. And so as we dive into this today, I'm just wondering if you want to start by sharing with everyone listening just a little bit about yourself in those areas, where you came from, what tripped you up about it, what caught you, anything that you feel that would be descriptive and relevant so we can all get to know you and your journey.
Oh my gosh. So when you say guilt, I feel like I've got mom guilt written across the top of my forehead. Middle name guilt. And I think too, it started with me, even in my heritage, my Jewish heritage, hand wringing and guilt was such a big part of, I think, in the South and being raised Jewish. I mean, I watched my grandmother do it. I watched my mom do it. And I think for me, growing up the way that I did, I've learned there's 3 ways that you can go about being a mom. I think one, you parent and you become a mom just like you had growing up. And then I think you can also parent from the extreme, the total opposite of how you're raised. And then there's the middle, then there's the balance, right? Where you have a little bit of this and you have a little bit of that, but then you find the medium, you find the middle of what is healthy for yourself and what is healthy for your children and what is healthy for your relationship. And because I grew up with a mom in addiction and
Mm.
because there was so much neglect and abandonment, that I went to the total opposite extreme of how I parented my kids. And, you know, to be late in carpool line was to be in the middle of carpool line. That was considered late. Um, you had breakfast on the table. There were all these things that I wished as a child that I had had that I would do differently as a mom. And I just went overboard. And so when I met you and got introduced to your work and starting working with you, and we talked about self-care and boundaries and putting yourself first, it was like a foreign language. Like you didn't know that, you didn't do that, especially from the South, the good girl, the perfect girl, the good mom. What would people think about me if I went to dinner with somebody and left my kids at home with my husband? Like, what would people think? I know in the psychology world, we talk about guilt, and it means that I've done something bad, and then there's shame that I am bad. And for me, the guilt was shame. The guilt was that I am a bad mom. I believed it to my core if I put anybody else first besides my kids. My kids came first to the detriment of my health, to the detriment of my marriage, to the detriment of my other relationships in my life, to the detriment of work. They came first. I didn't know any different. I just knew that I was parented in a way that I didn't want to parent again. And I went to the extreme.
Let's just all take a deep breath on that. My heart is bursting open with compassion for you. And I think for everyone listening, I believe most women can relate to you in some way, shape, or form of how we've made to feel, whether we are a parent or not, that God forbid we take care of ourselves. We are taught to believe that we're taking care of ourselves to the detriment of someone else. So I want to start there. You've already said so much, but I think that phrase, to the detriment of, is such an important phrase, because what I think I'm hearing you say is that you heard this inner critical voice saying,
Mhm.
you can't go out to dinner with someone and leave your kids with a babysitter or your husband. And so, because you had this indoctrination, you led a life that put your kids first to your own detriment. And
Mhm.
that's the phrase that I think is important, because I think any parent listening or anyone listening, it is important to put our children as a priority. Absolutely.
Mhm.
It is when it is to our own detriment that it becomes toxic and
Mhm.
isn't healthy for us, obviously, but also isn't healthy for them, because then we end up enmeshed with them rather than caring for ourselves as an individual, caring for them, or even seeing them as individuals. So I really
Mhm.
wanted to break that down for a moment. It is that you didn't take care of yourself. You took care of your children to your own detriment. And I think by the time we come full circle to the end of this conversation, one of the things that I hope we all walk away with is that there is a both and possibility out
Mhm.
there
Mhm.
that says I can absolutely take care of my children. I can absolutely take care of my marriage, my home, my family life, my career, and not to the detriment of myself, but by putting myself on the map, so to speak, I'm doing it and those around me are enhanced and
Mhm.
my relationships with them is enhanced. And we'll get to that, but I want to kind of everyone to see this is where I'm going, because we're so taught it's an either or. Either you take care of yourself or you take care of your children. And
Mhm.
we're indoctrinated in that from the get-go.
Mhm.
Of course, we want to take care of our kids. So we're like, well, I must not then take care of myself. We aren't even taught that, of course, both things are possible, and not only possible, the way that it's actually better for our kids or our spouse. When I'm
Mhm.
full, I'm a
Mhm.
better wife in my marriage, you
Mhm.
know? So,
Mhm.
one more thing I just wanted to ask you about, and then I want to open it up to you. You mentioned your mom and your grandmother being raised Jewish, being raised Southern. We both have both of those in common. And you just mentioned the hand wringing. And so, for anyone who isn't familiar with that, first, I just wanted you to elaborate, let everyone know what that is. And then anything else that you had said. You mentioned neglect, you mentioned addiction, you mentioned many things.
Many
So,
things, many things. So, it's funny, I still have a family member that talks about and makes fun of the hand wringing. It was like this thing that, and maybe I guess maybe it's not in all religions, but it's just this feeling of worry and Jewish guilt. There is a Jewish guilt. Um, and so, you're not productive. You're not sitting in anything by just sitting here wringing your hands. Um, and that was a way that my family used to, and still today, sometimes will talk to me. She's like, "Oh, you're just sitting there wringing your hands." Also, to growing up, so I grew up in addiction. So, growing up in addiction, where I had two parents that were in their disease of addiction when I was little, there was a lot of neglect because they were in their disease, they were in their sickness. And there were a lot of times where I was left to take care of myself. And so I always dreamed as a little girl of what it would be like to have my own kids and how I would do things differently.
mhm,
Whether it was growing up, I had to make my own breakfast. And it was like, when I'm a mom, I'm just going to have this glorious breakfast on the table, and there's going to be bacon and eggs and biscuits and all the things. Or I mentioned carpool, and I was always, most of the time, the last one to be picked up. And it was like, I'm going to be first in carpool line. And so it would literally was that total opposite end of the spectrum of what I thought I needed to do to be considered a good mom. And when I did those things, then all of a sudden my worth became attached to that. So I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be a good mom. So then I was like, I had a payoff from it, right? Like I was like, oh, I've got this. Look at me. I'm getting all these, oh, Julie, you're such a good mom. And oh my gosh, your kids are so lucky. And so it was just like, go deeper, go harder, work harder, try harder, go faster. And so I didn't know boundaries. And the other thing that you said that made me think about when you're talking about like someone's spouse is I was very unfair to their dad, my husband at the time. I was very unfair to him because I didn't trust that he could do it. I only trusted that I could do it, which became a control thing. So I couldn't leave twins that are 3 months old at home with him because I needed to do it. I was the good mom, so I needed to be able to take care of them. And so then every time, so the longer I did that, the harder it was for me to understand what it meant like to even take care of myself. I didn't know that going out to dinner with a friend was taking care of yourself. I thought that was just going and sitting there, and I'd have my phone with me the whole time, looking and seeing if I was missing anything at home, and I couldn't relax. I
mhm.
couldn't give myself that permission to relax into anything other than being a mom. And then the more I did it, the more resentful I became.
Mm. That's such a clear way of articulating guilt, because those are some of the things that guilt does. Guilt robs us of our
Mhm.
sense of self-worth. It
Mhm.
tells us I'm the only one that can do everything. I need to control everything because I'm trying to get my sense of worth from the external. I'm
Mhm.
trying to get my sense of worth by doing more. And so it robs you of an inherent sense of worth that, oh, I'm worthy because I'm Joy Madden. I'm
Mhm.
worthy because of the being that I am. I'm worthy because of the presence and the connection that I have with my child. I'm worthy because of who I am. You mentioned shame before.
Mhm.
Who you were to yourself, you were saying, I am not okay.
Mhm.
And so guilt robs us of our sense of worth. And because we're trying to get it by doing more from our kids, there's always the next thing to do, always the next thing to do, because we're never satisfied. So
Mhm.
there's the next carpool line or the next birthday party or any way we have to show up at school for our kids. It's all about doing, and it robs us of our being and our kids getting to see us for who we are, not what we're doing. And it also, by that control and by that doing, it places us in a state of martyrdom because we're martyring ourselves on
Yeah.
purpose. We're
Mhm.
martyring ourselves on purpose. Like you said, it was somewhat unfair to your husband because
Mhm.
you were saying, I'm the only one that can do it. You
Mhm.
can't do it. And so it's sending so many different messages out. And then I'll speak for myself. And then, as I was learning this early on, when I'm in a state of martyrdom, the state of resentment is not far behind
Yeah.
because I put myself in martyrdom and then I'm resenting Jamie for not stepping up more, but he can't step up more because I'm the only one that can do it. And I'm the only one that can do it right.
Mhm.
And so there's a cycle that happens, a guilt cycle, a shame cycle that happens. And I want to unpack one piece of it and then I'll ping it back to you. I wanted to unpack a little bit exactly what guilt is because we use and throw around this term guilt often.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm kind of obsessed with articulating things very well because I think when we can unpack what something really means, we can heal it faster and more effectively. So, guilt, what I've learned in working with so many thousands of clients and students over the years, guilt is a feeling inside. It's a feeling that you referenced, I'm doing something wrong.
Mhm.
And there is a guilt that's encoded within us, like a morality guilt. And then there's a cultural guilt. So if you went into the market and you stole a box of cereal,
Mhm.
you're encoded inside of you to get a message and a feeling that says, ooh, that didn't really, at the deepest level, it didn't really feel good.
Mhm.
I did something that isn't in alignment. And we do feel that sense innately. If I steal something, I'm probably going to feel, quote, bad about it. That's healthy guilt
Mhm.
because it is a message internally that is saying, look at yourself, take a look
Yeah.
at your behavior.
Mhm.
So, healthy guilt, we want to make sure that we discern that we're not talking about that kind of guilt that says, if I steal something, I'm probably not going to feel good about it. Even
Mhm.
if I yell at my child, I'm going to have a moment of guilt in the sense that my inner alignment knows that there's
Mhm.
a higher way that is more in alignment to communicate. And I just fell short in that moment. So, you're going to get a message from your body that
Mhm.
says, take a look at this.
Mhm.
But the difference between that and cultural guilt is, as you were saying about generations in your family, generations, we've been taught that taking care of ourselves is wrong.
Yeah.
And we are, quote, bad for doing it, for indulging. It's a luxury.
Mhm.
We're not taught that breathing deeply is a luxury, but it's a necessity. It's not a luxury. So, taking care of ourselves, we've conflated inherent guilt, healthy guilt, with cultural toxic guilt.
Mhm.
And the reason I wanted to break this down is I think it's important for every single, especially if you're a woman, but most people that are watching and part of a Permission to Thrive, soul psychology, soul care community, you're interested in being of service. You want to live a life on purpose. You are living on purpose. So it's important for you to recognize the parts of guilt that you've been indoctrinated in to from culture, from a capitalistic culture that
Mhm.
wants you to feel guilty, that wants you to dim your light, that wants you to say, oh, I'm a bad mom. If
Mhm.
I take care of myself, I'm a bad mom. Because
Mhm.
then you feel disempowered. And when you feel disempowered, you will give your power away
Yeah.
to others who are, quote, making the rules. So it's
Mhm.
very important that we really look into, well, what actually is guilt, and is what I'm feeling inside healthy or not healthy, toxic, for instance, because it will keep, if you are experiencing toxic guilt, and that's why when I say guilt, I like to say toxic guilt, because then it puts me in a state of inspiration that I want to be empowered, not disempowered.
Mm.
And so if I realize, oh, I'm at the recipient end of toxic cultural guilt, I want to be empowered and take my power back and say, no, it's actually healthy to model to Will a mom who is thriving, who is
Yeah.
caring for herself. That's actually healthy for my child.
Hmm.
So that's the
Hmm.
first part, the feeling of guilt, and whether it's healthy guilt or toxic guilt. And then, secondly, I wanted to discern, so guilt is a feeling.
Hmm.
Underneath every feeling is a thought. And so the thought underneath I'm bad is a judgment. You shouldn't take time for yourself. It's not okay to take time for yourself. So there's this implicit, invisible rule that says you as a woman, you as a Southern woman, you as a mom, you as a Jewish mom, whatever labels you want to put on it, the belief is you should not take care of yourself. You should not take time for yourself. And therefore, if and when you do, you'll have a critical voice. See, you shouldn't have done that. You're a bad mom. So you're having this voice, this internalized belief that's wagging its finger at you. And that's how you stay in that cycle of guilt. And I know those of you listening who aren't even parents, but maybe you're taking care of elderly parents and it's the same thing. You want to go take some time to yourself because you're giving a lot or you're giving a lot to your job. We're just taught it's not okay. So I wanted to presence
Hmm.
the feeling of guilt. The feeling of guilt is married to the belief of judgment and criticism and that finger wagging that if you're doing it, it's not okay and you're bad and you're not okay. And we all want to be a good mom.
Hmm.
So we have to say, I can be a good mom and take care of myself, but that permission has not been given so far. So
Yeah.
anything that you want to share about your journey around that distinction and or any other place you want to take this conversation where your own path and journey with guilt and redemption.
Right. Well, right. I love the way that you described that and unpacked the difference because I think a lot of us get stuck in that of what is toxic guilt and what is like guilt. Okay, well, I have done something that I need to repair. And there's also a message that I received of a woman's place is in the home. And that's another toxic culture of guilt because when you hear that message from somebody, then that becomes your belief system, right? And you're like, and then that just increases the the guilt that's in your inside of you for wanting to do something to take care of yourself. So I wanted to point that out because that was something else that I thought of as you were sharing. And and then I wanted to also go back to something that you said around your kids is that you have helped me discover and unpack that I'm absolutely doing a disservice to my kids by not taking care of them of myself because what I was modeled as a child and what I want to model to my children, I want it to be completely different. Because when they become moms, I want them to look back at me and say, well, my mom, it was okay for my mom to go do this, or it was okay for my mom to go on this trip. I want that for them so badly. I want them to look at the things that I've done and the things that I'm doing differently to make their lives better.
Mhm. Yeah, how did you go? That's a great point. Is there was a point on your journey that
Mhm.
you recognized that actually not taking care of yourself was doing a disservice to your
Mhm.
children. So not taking care of yourself was actually a disservice to your children. So when you had that epiphany awareness, I don't know if it happened over time, but what helped you to get there? What helped you to shift it? What do you recall around that time? Because what you just said is the single thing that has me able to stand and say, I will never feel mom guilt again. I will not allow myself because I know that me not taking care of myself, I can look back and I can see that it was a detriment to Will
Yeah.
because I would show up impatient, frustrated. I
Mhm.
would yell. I would be impatient. I
Mhm.
was not present. I was more interested in behavior than
Mhm.
presence and going underneath and connecting and the intimacy that I wanted with him.
Mhm.
And I awakened to recognize that I had been disempowered by culture. I had allowed myself to be disempowered by culture. And I just was listening and wanted to be a good mom. And yet there was a place inside of me that knew I'm not being of service to
Yeah.
this beautiful boy. I don't even like the way I'm showing up. But I was
Mhm.
in a corner. I didn't like the way I was impatient and frustrated and overwhelmed. I
Mhm.
didn't like that way of being. I knew that wasn't in alignment with who I am and wanted to be. And yet I was in a corner because then I couldn't go take care of myself to fill myself so that I was calm and relaxed and
Mhm.
present.
Mhm.
And when you said that about recognizing, when I recognized I was actually doing a disservice to Will, that's when I took my power back and said, I will never feel that unhealthy, toxic guilt again that
Yeah.
keeps you in lack. It keeps
Yeah.
you in a state of lack. Oh, there isn't enough time to
Mhm.
both. And I do want to say, caveat, I know there are many working moms out there, many single moms out there. Many of you have children under the age of 5. So please do not hear this like, oh, just go out and take a walk in nature. No big deal. It is a process
Mhm.
to liberate yourself from cultural messaging. And it is true, we don't live with extended families, and often we're parenting. That's my situation. We don't have extended family around us. So I please am not saying to anyone that this is like a quote walk in the park, even though that is self-care. So please don't mishear us. And yet I do want everyone today to be willing to awaken that you don't want to be imprisoned by a culture in a capitalistic society that's telling you that you should feel badly about being your best self. So how was it for you?
Yeah. Gosh. So the journey that I have been on now, a single mom, I have one daughter that has been living with me since my separation and became enmeshed. And you've worked with me through that. We became very much enmeshed where if she was happy, I was happy. If she was sad, I was sad.
Mm,
And I felt this obligatory responsibility to make her happy because of what she had been through with my separation and divorce. And so I put all my eggs in her basket. Everything I did was for her. Everything I gave up a lot. It got to be where when I wanted to do something, if I wanted to go to dinner or if I wanted to go on a walk by myself, she would get angry. And I started to look at like, why is she angry? Like, why does she not want me to go? Well, because I taught her and I trained her that I would always be with her, right? And that there was no space between the two of us. And I did that. I did that. I did it out of survival. So she began to get resentful towards me of leaving. And, well, what time are you going to be home? Well, why are you going? And there was starting to become a little manipulation and a little guilt tripping of her to me. And I was like, what in the world, after all I've done for you and, all of this, that just the resentment began to build. And I was like, oh my God, I've literally taught her to be so dependent upon me that she can't do anything without me. She could do everything without me, but I taught her that she needed me to do it. And so I think that was, do I remember one specific time? No. I remember a myriad of times where I had to come check in with somebody, come check in with you, come check in with myself. And then it became, okay, even though she's upset, can I still give myself permission to go do that thing? Like, can I still do that? And then it became a step deeper, and I still have to do this. Transparent, still have to do this. Um, is I literally have to sit and close my eyes and truly get still and ask myself, are you doing anything wrong? Are you hurting anyone with this decision that you're making to do something for yourself?
Mm, mm.
And 9.5 times out of 10, the answer is I am not doing anything wrong. But I put that judgment on myself.
You
I continue
perpetuate
to perpetuate that. Yes,
onto yourself what you have been taught.
exactly.
Oh my gosh, you're saying so many things. There are so many things that I want to ask you out of what you just said. And I hope everyone listening has also 1,000 questions and ding, 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 different things that your insights you're having about your own life. So I'm going to try to recall some of them right now. Before I go to each one of them individually, I want to also, like we unpacked what exactly is guilt, I'd like to unpack for a moment, well, what exactly is self care? Because
Mhm.
we've referenced things like going out to dinner with a friend, going for a walk, sitting with yourself, asking yourself the question, am I doing anything wrong? So I wanted to just take a moment and say by self care, we're not speaking about going to take a bubble bath with candles or a manicure, although a massage is a nice thing. It isn't at the, that is one aspect. So I break self care down into physical self care. I might go to a yoga class. I may get a massage, have my nails done, different things at different times. So there is physical caring for my physical body. There is also caring for my emotional body,
Mhm.
my emotions, and my spiritual self, my soul, the
Mhm.
spiritual part of me, the soul part of me, which I believe is the grandest, largest part of me. It's invisible, but it's the part that I want to be the most connected with. So as you all are listening and we unpack a little bit more of your journey, Joy, I want you all to hear that we're not speaking only about lighting candles in the evening, which is lovely. I do that, try to do that every night, most nights. But we're also talking about really caring for your emotional self, the part of you that
Mhm.
was saying, Joy, you shouldn't even do that. You're doing something bad. You're doing something wrong. And why I teach so many courses on emotional self care, and also why I tend to call self care soul care.
Mhm.
Because truly, when we care for the highest part of ourselves, the soul part of ourselves, I call it the mothership part of ourselves, the heart of ourselves, when we say that that is important, it's imperative when I feel well fed, when I feel well nourished. And this is what I really want everyone to hear is this is not only for moms, not only for parents, not only for women. As you were speaking, I was thinking about someone who works in a corporate environment, let's say, or a single mom that's working. And it could be something like, oh, I have a challenge leaving work at 5 p.m. or leaving work at 6 p.m. I remember when I used to
Yeah.
pick up Will in the carpool line, I would
Mhm.
specifically consciously leave my phone at home. And I would
Mhm.
tell myself, I'm not going to look at my phone until tomorrow morning, tomorrow
Mhm.
after. That was a long time from 2 or 3 in the afternoon until the
Mhm.
next day. And I would just say to myself, that's feeding myself, that's nourishing myself. I don't need to be distracted. That was soul care for me. Might not be for someone else. That was just for me and my way of giving myself permission. It was okay to stop seeing clients at 3 p.m. It was okay not to take a client at 8 p.m. after he went to sleep. It was okay to quote, stop working, take that hat off. And so, for anyone listening, you might be just grappling with leaving your office at 6 p.m. That is
Mhm.
care of your soul. Yes, it's a physical boundary, leaving, but we grapple with that because we're in a culture that has indoctrinated us to think that that is a bad thing because we get so acknowledged. If you're the one staying at work until 9 p.m., you are the one getting acknowledged at your job. You are the
Mhm.
one getting promoted. When to the degree that you don't have a personal life is to the degree, and I work with a lot of executive women, they're executives in the entertainment industry, different industries, attorneys, and it is for sure the woman who's there the latest gets the attention, the promotion, the accolades. So I wanted to just ensure that we're speaking to everyone here, we've all been indoctrinated. And so then back to you, you were saying that at some point you got enmeshed with your daughter. And that's what happened. Someone else might be enmeshed with their job. Someone
Mhm.
else might be enmeshed with making sure they get that promotion. And that's why it gets kind of messy, especially if you're a single mom and you need to pay your mortgage or your rent. It's easy to be conflicted in this world. What
Mhm.
I have learned is that um, we are supported by a universe that when we start having the courage to have those boundaries, we are supported in a different way than we could possibly imagine. But you were speaking to what happens, which is we get enmeshed. We either get really distanced from the other
Mhm.
person. We'll have like a teen that just comes home and closes their door, and we've created distance between us, or distance in our relationships, in our marriages, our partnerships, distance at work. We either do that, or what typically, and then what happened with you, enmeshment. And so what you're saying is because your eyes were so external and you
Yeah.
heard such an internal criticism, it's not okay to care for your soul, your life force, your purpose, your mission, of which being a mom is part. But
Yes.
because you weren't given permission to care for yourself, you conflated yourself with your
Mhm.
daughter, and there were no boundaries. And then you taught her that she
Mhm.
didn't like it when you individuated. And
Mhm.
individuating is such an important aspect of any relationship, especially with children, but with a spouse, with a boss. Individuating is important. And so you were teaching her not to individuate, that
Mhm.
she and you should be enmeshed. And you were sharing, I was remembering so many different examples, the courage of the small action steps that you have taken over the time that I've known you, some small, some radical. I can remember moments when you would say, I'm going to go out to lunch and I'm going to take time in the middle of the day. God forbid I take time in the middle of the day to go out to lunch to spend money on myself rather than, and different things. There is something to be said of what you gained by
Ah,
giving yourself permission to rest in the middle of
yeah.
the day. You then came resourced. And or some of your larger, I remember the first time you ever gave yourself permission to go to a spa by yourself, and
Oh,
and not and not have to create an excuse to anybody, but to say, this is important to me, to
yeah.
speak up. And you received so much from that and so much support from that. And I remember you
Mhm.
coming back home and rearranging your bedroom. I'm appreciating all of the practices that you have done. And then lastly, there is a very, very vulnerable moment that I'm remembering that I feel was so courageous of you. I remember we were talking once about how you had modeled to your daughter and trained your daughter to be enmeshed with you.
Mhm.
And it was during the time that she really wanted to go away to school.
Mm.
And you came to the really deep awareness that it was actually you that was afraid of separating from her.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so courageous and authentic of you to share that insight with me, because that's what happens with guilt. When we don't take care of ourselves, we project that,
Mhm.
oh, I'm really doing this for my child. And it does feel like that to us. But deeper down, which is what I really think was so courageous of you, you recognized, oh, I'm the one that thinks I won't be valuable
Yeah.
if she's not around and I'm not doing everything with her.
Mhm.
And I'm the one that would be afraid of who is Joy without her being around all the time. And
Yeah.
so it was very deep. And I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but I want to acknowledge you because that's one of the main reasons I wanted to do this episode, is that I would like everyone listening to traverse into those, well, what's underneath it? Because there's a whole
Yeah.
cultural part, but underneath there's a whole
Yeah.
part of who are we?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
anything you want to share about that?
my whole identity was wrapped up in being a mom. And to not have a child here living with me for the first time in 16 years, 17 years, 16 years, and I was going to be by myself for the first time in a really long time, I was terrified. I was terrified. And yes, and you helped me unpack that because I kept wanting to say, oh, maybe she's not ready. Maybe she just needs to stay home another year. I think she'll do better if she's here. And 10 months later, the best decision that we ever made was
Yeah.
for her to go away.
And she
Yeah,
knew she was ready.
she
Yes.
knew she was ready. And which kind of like is bringing this whole thing for full circle because um now I have a wonderful life. And now that she's home, we're finding the balance, right? We're finding that okay, well, you've been away and you had this wonderful, amazing life where you've met friends and whatever. And while you've been away, I've had this amazing and wonderful life and I've met people. And I do want to go out to dinner and I do have a very strict morning routine. And before my morning routine, and she would pop in the bedroom and I would just close my books and close my journal and in mid-sentence and I wouldn't go back to it, and even it was this morning she came down and I was like, I'm not finished. I'll be out as soon as I'm done. Close the door. So, but you helped me learn that. You helped me really understand what boundaries were. And I thought having boundaries meant that I was being mean.
Yes, and like you said at the beginning, you taught
Hmm.
her that. So at the beginning, when you were seeking to have boundaries, she did get upset with you. Wait a minute, you're
Yeah.
supposed to be staying home with me. And that's why I think of other people listening here. Like it could be that you're concerned that your boss will get upset with you for leaving
Yeah.
because you've trained them. Why wouldn't
Yeah.
they get upset? Because you have trained them. Well, I'll be here till 9:30. And so
Exactly.
having individualization between either you and your boss, you and your child. When our children are young, it's like what grades they get are a
Hmm.
reflection of us. You said your identity, you identified yourself solely as
Hmm.
their mom. It isn't that that is a role that we all have. It is an
Hmm.
identification. But we want to move into my identity is I'm a soul. And when
Yeah.
I'm full, then we are in the place of choice.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
then when she comes
Hmm.
in and you're in the middle of your morning routine, or I remember when Will was little and he'd come in and when are you going to be finished meditating? When are you going to be finished meditating? Are you finished yet? Are you finished yet? Are you finished meditating yet? And and when we are at peace in a both and, I am at peace with caring for myself
Hmm.
and I'm interested, of course, in being the best person I can be for another individual, then you will also be able to navigate, oh, today I am going to close my book and go be with him or go be with
Yeah.
her. Or
Yeah.
today is the day that he can learn a little bit of he doesn't need instant gratification, that I can wait 30 more seconds.
Hmm.
And so when we are indoctrinated with toxic guilt and judgment and shame and lack, we also then lack the discernment
Yeah.
to assess what it is that our child needs because we haven't given ourselves and we're looking through a skewed filter.
Hmm.
When we give ourselves permission to care for ourselves, we are more able to choose from a very empowered place.
Hmm.
Oh, I can fill and fulfill my own needs, and I can discern what it is that those around me, whether it's my boss, there might be a night that you stay till 9:30,
Right.
but you're willing to go through the messy middle of
Mm-hmm.
unraveling yourself from each other so that
Hmm.
you ultimately see two full individuals here.
Hmm.
And I honor you for your journey on that. And we're all on an eternal journey of that. And it kind of brings me to the last thing that I want to circle around, which is one of the other reasons that we decided to come on together again today is because you are assisting me with this retreat that I'm going to be hosting in October of 2025 in Los Angeles. And
Mhm.
we were having this deep conversation about, there's so many people that have asked me over the years, when are you going to do a retreat? When are you going to do a retreat? And then on
Mhm.
the other side of it, I was even questioning, do you think that women are going to give themselves permission to come for a weekend and to leave their homes and their families and their jobs and invest financially in themselves and give themselves the time? And it is a vulnerability inside of me
Right.
that I wonder, where are we as a community, as women, as individuals, as mothers, in granting ourselves this permission? Because I just know in my life, when I live from a place of rest and
Mm.
when I do invest in resourcing myself,
Mm.
I like how I show up better. I can say that I really, quote, like myself now, but it also was a journey. And
Yeah.
so I just wondered if you could speak to, and I will put, doesn't need, I'm not thinking that we're going to talk about the retreat right now, although we could, but I will put all of that information in the show notes. But I just wanted to ask you, what would it mean to you to spend a weekend in community with like-minded women and sitting with yourself and going through guided processes and watching me coach other people in a group and how much we get from that, and the journal writing and the dancing and the all the things. And I mean this very sincerely and honestly, like, where are you on your journey with that? And what would you say to somebody who maybe, whether it's my particular retreat, which I hope you would come to, it'll be in the
Mm.
show notes, but just in general, a woman giving that kind of thing to herself, what would you say to somebody who's on the fence? They feel the prompting, but they may
Yeah.
not have been ready to give themselves the green light. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I think for so many of us, that's such a big decision to make, right? Because for some people, you are leaving your family. I happen to be in a place where my kids are older. I can tell you 2 years ago, I would be questioning it. Like, I don't know that I can really leave. And today, I would have said this a year ago. Unequivocally, it's a yes, because like you said, I know what a better person that I am when my cup is filled spiritually, soulfully, mentally, emotionally, physically. I know how I feel when I come to certification once a week, when I just come to that class for an
Yes.
hour every week. And I know what I feel like and that I can show up better for clients. I can show up better for my kids. I can show up better in all my relationships. I can show up better when I'm driving down the road because I don't have road rage. So coming to a weekend is a gift for myself, first and foremost, but that gift will trickle down to everybody in my life.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And I
Everybody
always
in
say, you say trickle down, I say spiral out. Exactly.
it,
Exactly.
it just will. It's necessary. It's imperative. I deserve it. And 2 years ago, I would not be able to sit here and say that I deserve to go.
Yeah. And it's by taking these actions and baby steps.
Yeah.
When we give ourselves permission to, quote, retreat,
Yeah.
it is a message to ourselves that we are worthy of
Yeah.
taking the time and the space and the energy, because we will be resourced in bringing
Mhm.
back so much. So I will put the link if anyone is interested in giving yourself the gift. And I think, to just wrap this up, what we're both saying is that may you on your journey be moving towards that caring for your soul is not a luxury, it is a necessity.
Mhm.
It is a necessity. I study, and so much research has been done on individuals when we get to the end of our lives. And one of
Yes.
the biggest
Mhm.
regrets of those passing over is that they did not invest in their own soul, their
Mhm.
own life. They didn't live a soulful life, a connected life, a rich life from the inside out of intimacy and connection. And if you're
Mhm.
interested in that, which I know you are, if you listen to this podcast, this
Mhm.
retreat that we are curating will have so much soulful connection, heart to heart connection, inner processes, guided processes, music, connection with the most incredible like-minded community, so much safety, so much joy. The days are going to be full. And of course, it's in LA, so we'll go to the ocean
Of
and we'll get to
course.
meditate at the ocean and all the
Oh,
things. So I will put the link, but what I want everyone to hear as a takeaway is your self care, whether it's coming to a retreat or retreating for 5 minutes
yeah.
from your kids saying, I have to go to the bathroom, and you go into your bathroom and retreat and
Mhm.
resource and come back out differently. May you leave this episode seeing soul care, self care as a necessity, as imperative, and as something that will enrich your life from the inside out forever. So
Yes.
thank you, my Joy.
Yeah.
Thank you for being
Oh,
here. I
thank you
adore
for
you, and
having
I'm
me.
deeply grateful for the transparent, vulnerable, intimate conversations we have with each other. And
Well,
I will just say again, Joy is a soul psychology coach. You are a conscious parenting coach. You work in the field of addiction. So if any of you out there feel impelled, compelled to reach out to Joy, to maybe have a session, to maybe have a conversation, if you found yourself resonating with any of the things that she's saying in your own life, reach out to her. I have all of her information in the show notes. You are spectacular. I always receive feedback of how much people receive from being in your presence. And I know how much you love doing what we do. So
I
thank
love it.
you.
Wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. And thank
Grateful for
you.
you.
Yeah.
Mm,
So grateful for you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And so I'm so grateful. I hope that you all have so many takeaways from your own deepening in your understanding of guilt, both the encoded kind, the healthy kind, and the toxic kind, that we are each and all ready to release any of that indoctrination, that Joy's pathway and her journey to her own shedding of guilt that led to enmeshment with others, that you can use this to guide your own journey wherever you find yourself with your relationship with guilt, with judgment, and move that into an inspired path that you may move forward guilt free, judgment free, standing in your own recognition that to live a guilt free life allows you to expand into a mutually beneficial relationship with others in your life, with your children, with your career, that says when you are satiated, when you are resourced, this is good not only for yourself, but it is a benefit to everyone around you, your marriages, your partnerships, your children, your work, your career, your clients. All those around you benefit to the degree that you are full, that you are fulfilled, that you are soul satiated. And so, not only to take that, but I will be speaking more about this retreat that is called Sanctuary, near and dear to my heart, happening in Los Angeles in October. Please go to the show notes and look into what the weekend, it's Friday evening through Monday, what the weekend will bring to you. The community that is coming together, it's safe, it's sacred, it's a time for you to connect with your soul, with your heart, with your spirit, with your life, to rest, to be resourced, to unravel anything that ever gets in the way of you creating the most intimate, connected relationships in your life, be it with your children, your spouse, your business, your career, your clients. And then to immerse yourself for a weekend in guided processes with music. My husband Jamie is doing all of the music. So you'll be immersed in music and processes and connections with others. You'll get to watch me coach. There's nothing more powerful and profound than watching someone, maybe it will be you, being coached, and the takeaways that we get, because we recognize that we are not alone, that we are each and all struggling with similar things in similar ways. And so watching each other get coached, getting to pair up and partner, getting to go to the ocean and meditate at the ocean and have rituals at the ocean, ceremonies of letting go and release, and yet standing into that next version of ourselves in an embodied way, and calling that next version of ourselves into existence with rest and restoration, and our being will allow you to leave this weekend so fulfilled, so full, that you have this overflow to then bring to all those other areas in your life. So look into the show notes. You will see more details about the weekend, how it will flow, what is included, the kind of processes and meditations and connections we'll all be sharing. And you're welcome to email me, Suzi@SuziLula.com, with any questions. There is an early bird rate, so if you're thinking about it, please take advantage of the early bird rate. But if you have any questions, you can email me. I can also connect you with any of my coaches, anyone in my community that I know is going, that can give you more information and just a feeling of what it's like to be at a retreat with me, to be in a class with me, what you will receive, how you will receive it, the kind of safe community that we are, supportive community that we are. I would love to have you. So be in touch, and I will be in touch, seeing you next week. So much love. Have a beautiful week, and give yourself permission to thrive. Much love, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If there was something in this conversation that spoke to you, we'd so appreciate it if you would take the time to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share this episode with women and mothers you know, because you are here to thrive. See you next time.